Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Shamaria Jackson, and in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about how an NFL player is being accused of a hire to kill. Yaya Mayweather looking at possibly 99 years in prison, a new coronavirus symptom, and many more, all here on today's Social Media News Podcast. And that's all coming up right after this short break. Stay tuned. So we're going to first go into the COVID-19 and how patients has reportedly begun to experience a new symptom called fizzing. So what is fizzing and where has this suddenly come from? According to the New York Post, multiple coronavirus patients are reporting their experiences on Twitter, and they're calling this new symptom fizzing. So these are corona patients that has healed from having the coronavirus. So they've had coronavirus in the past, and these are the things that they have had to deal with. It is described as a weird tingling sensation felt throughout the body, but doctors are saying that it is one of the last things patients feel as they are fighting the virus. In my past podcasts, I have mentioned some symptoms that someone with coronavirus may have, which includes but is not limited to a fever, loss of smell and taste, aches, respiratory issues, a dry cough, and fatigue. And with more severe symptoms, strokes and seizures. So with the fizzing, it kind of comes to a surprise as me. Just because this is an ache throughout your body, or a tingling sensation throughout your body. So that kind of creates more of anxiety of having this coronavirus. Because again, is this tingling sensation something that hurts? Or is this tingling sensation, when I say, does this tingling sensation hurt? I mean, let's say you hit your elbow or your funny bone and it there's that weird little tingling after you hit it. So it hurts, but you know it's going to go away. Is that how they're describing this tingling sensation? Or is it strictly just a weird tingling sensation that you want to scratch out of your body? Which again creates even an even bigger problem. But keep in mind, however, that some patients do not experience not only this symptom of fizzing, but they also don't have the same symptoms of having aches, respiratory issues, a dry cough, fatigue, any of those symptoms that I was telling you about earlier, simply because maybe their body is reacting differently. Every person is different. So for some, they might experience those symptoms, especially with having the fizzing, but for some patients, they don't. You have to keep that in mind too. Doctors also say that the fizzing feeling is more than likely caused by an autoimmune response that affects an individual's nervous system. So not everyone, feels that same feeling. Not everyone has that. So I think that me saying that kind of brings down people's anxiety, because people have already felt anxiety and an overwhelming feeling because of this coronavirus. So we have to be able to keep that in mind. And speaking of the COVID-19, I don't know if you guys have heard, but earlier last week, Roseann Barr actually went on a YouTube show that was hosted by Norm Macdonald. And she basically said that she felt like this COVID, the coronavirus, is actually a scheme to get rid of everyone in her generation. I can kind of understand what Roseann Barr is talking about. However, at the same time, I kind of don't understand what Roseann is talking about. Let me start off by first saying this. I have not heard from Roseann Barr since 2018. And then no one, not a single soul, absolutely no one. And here she comes, and she is claiming that the coronavirus is a plot to kill all baby boomers, aka people in her generation. It just came out of nowhere. Now, I can't knock her that much because of her conspiracy theory. And in some points, like I said, she does make a strong point. However, in 2018, the reason she was fired was because of racist remarks that she has made. And I'm saying that because Roseann stated her conspiracy theory was, quote, "I think we're being forced to evolve. I think they're trying to get rid of all of my generation." And she also went on to say, there's so many boomers that have money and do not work. So if you got them out of society, that would make a good thriller. End quote. When she said they're trying to force us to evolve, she kind of dug herself in this hole to where she obviously does not want to change. She does not want to evolve. She does not want to, continue going forward and seeing, our society grow. She wants things to stay the same. You can tell by her mannerisms, her actions. Here is where I kind of agree with her on. According to the New York Post, the younger generation is in fact calling the coronavirus the boomer remover, simply because a lot of the older generations are vulnerable to the virus. The risk increases with age and people who have health conditions. A little something about, what the New York Post said, and then I'm going to go back to Roseann. I have never heard anyone say that the coronavirus was the boomer remover. I've not heard that. Every social media handle I've been on, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, even YouTube, I have never heard anyone call the coronavirus the boomer remover. I have heard more of people calling this a pandemic, but I have never heard anyone say this is the boomer remover. Another thing that I've actually talked about on this podcast before is that, the risk does increase with age because older people, their immune system is not as strong. And that's the same thing with babies. And that goes on with people who have health conditions that I've mentioned before, people who have cancer. Their immune system is not as strong. Okay, so they are more vulnerable to getting the coronavirus. So in that fact, I do agree with her on. There's a lot of baby boomers who do have health conditions. So I think that's kind of where I agree with her on. However, I don't think that this is a scheme to get rid of people in her generation, simply because there are some studies that shows up to 20% of people hospitalized with the COVID-19 are between the ages of 20 and 44. We have seen more younger people in the hospital than anyone else. Yes, we do see a lot of older generations in the hospital, but mostly we see a lot of younger people. Whether it's because they're doing what they're not supposed to be doing, which is traveling, vacationing when they're not supposed to. We saw that earlier in March when a whole bunch of college students were wanting to go to Florida or California simply because either the tickets were low or they didn't want to miss out on their spring break. I think a lot of things stem from a lot of people in the older boomer generation basically feeling like there is a lack of empathy, a lack of respect for our elders, which is probably stemming as to why Roseann feels that this is a conspiracy to end all of her generation. For right now, however, I'm going to end this subject right here. I'm going to put a pin in it for right now. And when we come back from our break, I'm going to talk to you about how farmers are facing a shocking effect because of this pandemic. Coming up right after the break. Stay tuned.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back. Before the show, we're talking about Roseann and how she basically feels like the COVID-19 is basically a scheme to get rid of everyone in her generation. And we were also talking about fizzing and how that is a symptom that a lot of patients are feeling after beating the coronavirus. Now, however, I wanted to switch gears and talk about farmers who are facing a shocking effect because of the pandemic. You know, farmers, they've always been an essential in pretty much everything. They're the ones who give us basically all of our food. And with this pandemic going on, they are suffering more than anyone else. Farmers do so much more, first of all, than just handing us over some eggs or some chicken or produce. They're helping us create better crop diversity, you know, not only for human health, but for food security. They help secure the same food and water supply. Their techniques offset climate challenges, and they protect local ecological systems. And like I said, with this pandemic, if anyone is suffering more than anyone else, it is in fact farmers. With the restaurants being closed, hotels, schools being closed, you know, basically all of these places where you don't really look and understand that these are foods that are coming in, fresh produce that is coming in. With that being closed, many of the nation's largest farmers are facing plunging sales, which is leading to a staggered amount of food and waste. Many farmers have nowhere for their fresh produce to go. They have a few places, and I'll get into that a little later into our podcast today, but this fresh produce, I mean, there's nowhere for it to go. And in turn, these farmers are facing plunging sales, and that's leading to a staggered amount of food being wasted. And it's actually a spike in food being wasted, if we really want to be clear. And that's forcing millions of pounds of perishable foods to be destroyed. So we're talking fresh potatoes, fresh onions, fresh tomatoes, anything that's fresh that you can think of. Many of them are being forced into being wasted because there's nowhere else for them to go. Some has gone to food banks. Some has gone to charities, which is really good. But there's only so much that these charities can take, that these food banks can take. There's only so much. So, again, this is fresh food going down the line. And the whole pandemic has radically changed how people are spending at the same time. With people being laid off, and I believe there's about 16 million Americans right now who are without a job. And that's forcing them to go on an even bigger budget. And, that, again, turns people into becoming more mindful of what they buy. And because they're being more mindful, many people are unfortunately not buying the fresh produce. They would rather buy something such as a canned good that can stay with them for a very long time, simply because they cannot go to the store as frequently as they did in the past because of this pandemic. Also, I believe 2 weeks ago, the White House has urged people to limit their times going to the grocery store. And that has heeded with a lot of people are now heeding this advice, again, which goes on to hurt farmers even more. So how do you, where do you go from there? And later on, I mean, I can guarantee that I would see this, how food in the future is going to prosper. And the only reason I'm saying that, I mean, we already know that businesses are going to suffer. We already know that, people are already suffering because of this, which is possibly more than likely going to lead to another depression. And we also don't know how long this is going to continue. Because when we first heard about it, I first heard about the coronavirus, I believe at the end of January, and then it got a little bigger in February, and then by March it was hitting. And we may be in this situation. We may be in quarantine up until May, but I was also hearing it may be even later. So how is this going to affect farmers as we go on? How is this impact going to hurt our agriculture? What are these people going to do? Especially because this is food we're talking about. So again, how are they going to do that? There was a suggestion, Time Magazine on Twitter, there was a guy who had a business. His name was Dan Barber, and he was the Vanguard chef behind Blue Hill at Stone's Barns. And he said, quote, "What we need to do is design a whole new regional food system that can withstand these shocks and others that will come along, and that could be very exciting," end quote. Now, I kind of see what he's talking about. He's talking about the market. He's talking about the food industry. So that these people who are an actual, essential. They are feeding everyone in the world. How they can, design something new to ensure that they're never in this same situation again. So like, let's say something like this happens again 20, 40 years from now. They're not shuffling around and trying to figure out they're not trying to figure out what their next move is going to be. So I personally do like, what he has said there. And with that being said, I'm going to end this subject here. And I'm going to talk about Los Angeles County and how they have decided to extend their stay-at-home orders until May 15th. And that's coming up right after this break. Stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. So before the break, I was talking to you guys about how these big farmers are, really suffering because of this pandemic. And I was also talking to you guys about a man named Dan. About a man named Dan Barber and how he basically, suggested a way that we can grow from a situation like this so that we're never in this situation again, to where people are being, unemployed and, having to see our food supply in turn being destroyed. So just finding a new solution on that and, basically how things are playing out. But right now, I wanted to talk about Los Angeles and how they have decided to extend their stay-at-home orders until May 15th. So why did they decide to do it? Well, the death toll from the coronavirus in Los Angeles County, it rose. It rose rapidly on Saturday, April 11th. And county health officials reported an additional 25 deaths related to the virus around midday Saturday, and by the end of Saturday, there was about 456 new cases. Los Angeles County officials warned Friday that residents of the region must adapt even more severe social distancing practices to slow the spread of the coronavirus, and that stay-at-home restrictions could remain until the summer if they choose not to. So even with the dramatic social distancing county residents are already practicing, officials forecast that up to 30% of residents could be infected by midsummer without more behavioral changes, such as reducing shopping trips, which goes into my last subjects of how these bigger farmers are suffering because of this coronavirus. But I'm going to stick with the topic at hand, and that is actually why a lot of people are in fact being infected. Sometimes, like I stated in my last podcast, sometimes people are in fact infected, and either they know it and they have just decided to just do what they want to do, or sometimes they don't know about it, period, and they're just doing what they normally do. So that could come to like no surprise for anyone. Also, Saturday the 11th was Easter Eve, and for a lot of people around the country, that is the day before Easter, which is a religious holiday. So people are gathering up, and they're so used to celebrating, I guess, with family. I know me personally, I usually celebrate Easter with my family, and it's filled of prayer and, you know, everything. It's a religious holiday. So for me, I spend my Easter praying. I spend my Easter, you know, staying with my family, making sure everyone is good, especially if you're a family-oriented person such as I am. This is such a hard thing to do. Not being around family, not being around loved ones. And I think a lot of people were infected because they were around family, or maybe they had to go to the grocery store to get food to prepare for a meal. So maybe they did understand this coronavirus is big, but this is a part of their religion. So for a lot of people, such as myself, you spend your time in prayer. So it may not be that Saturday. Maybe that Saturday night, it was a get together. It was a party. For me, my family does have a day before Easter, a family get together where you're staying with your family, you're talking with your family, you're catching up with your family. And then on Sunday, it's all about prayer and, understanding what Easter is really about, especially for different religions. So I can understand what they're saying about, you know, changing that behavioral change. But I guess when people are so instilled of having that behavioral instinct, it's just a little hard for a lot of people, which again is why Los Angeles has decided to extend their stay-at-home orders. And speaking of, you know, Los Angeles actually extending their time, there is something that is going on around the world called intimate terrorism. And this is about to get really deep, especially for me, because I am someone who has experienced domestic violence. So if this is something that you are sensitive to, if you want to skip on ahead, trust me, you are not going to hurt my feelings. But if you have never heard of intimate terrorism, it is a term many experts prefer for domestic violence, because since this quarantine has been in effect, domestic violence has increased tremendously. Okay, so according to the New York Post, the United Nations called for urgent action to combat the worldwide surge in domestic violence. The domestic violence cases has risen about 30%. And I'll say that again. It has risen. Domestic violence has risen to up to 30%. The thing with domestic violence is it's not just physical. Domestic violence is mental and it is emotional, and it actually ranges from there. And women are not the only people who are being abused. There are children being abused. And even though it's not talked about a lot, men are getting abused as well. Allison Messenger, a managing staff lawyer with Janice Center, a domestic violence organization in South Los Angeles, told the Los Angeles Times last month that the lockdown was a worst-case scenario for anyone in an abusive relationship. Compound that with the fact that access to services is more difficult than ever. And I'm actually going to go off of that because with these stores being closed and businesses being shut down, many times work for a lot of people is their safe haven. You want to get out from being around your abuser, but at the same time, a lot of people want to protect their abuser. And I don't want to really go into it because this is such a soft, sensitive topic. Again, so, I mean, I understand that they're saying, limit your time going shopping, but sometimes just getting out of the house so that that person can just calm down. That's kind of, their safe haven, I guess, in a way. These grocery stores to where they can just walk up and down the aisle or talking to someone. Maybe your favorite, grocery store clerk is someone you slowly start to build a relationship with until you can tell them like, hey, this, and this happened. Again, because not only women are dealing with this, but men are dealing with this and children are dealing with this, which is why the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres tweeted on April 6th, quote, "Many women under lockdown for COVID-19 face violence where they should be safest in their own home. I urge all governments to put women's safety first as they respond to the pandemic." You never know who is dealing with abuse. All you can do is just make sure that they are okay and doing everything in your power to make sure that they stay safe, which is why Rihanna has donated $2.1 million to the mayor's fund for the Los Angeles. Which is why Rihanna has donated $2.1 million to the mayor's fund for Los Angeles to assist victims of domestic violence affected by the coronavirus lockdown. The Singers Clara Lionel Foundation joined with Twitter and Square CEO Jack Dorsey to donate matching sums to the drive. Their donations will cover 10 weeks of support, including shelter, meals, and counseling for families experiencing domestic violence during the pandemic. And that's in Greater Los Angeles. But if you are someone is facing domestic abuse, please call 1-800-799-7233. All right, so we have a lot more subjects that we are going to hit right after this short break. Stay tuned. Again, if you want that number for anyone facing domestic abuse, if you or someone is facing domestic abuse, do not stay in that situation. I urge you to please call 1-800-799-7233 so that you are safe during this pandemic.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back. So before the break, things got very emotional and very, very serious. It was a topic of domestic violence and how this quarantine has since risen the amount of reports about domestic violence and how it has increased to about 30%. And we also talked about how Rihanna, as well as, and how Jack Dorsey donated about $2.1 million to help those who have experienced domestic violence. And I know Rihanna spoke a little bit about it more because of her experience with domestic violence. Has spoke about her experience with domestic violence. So again, if you did not get that number, I urge you to please call that number. Again, 1-800-799-7233. I wanted to switch gears all the way and talk about a young lady named Yaya Mayweather, who is the daughter of Floyd Mayweather, and she's 19 years old, and she is facing 99 years in prison for allegedly assaulting her rapper boyfriend, Nba Youngboy's mother of his child. So I spoke about it a little bit on my last podcast, but I'm going to go on and reiterate what happened. So there was one night about two weeks ago, Yaya Mayweather went to her boyfriend, rapper Nba Youngboy's house. She walked in and she saw the mother of his child sitting in his living room. And Yaya asked for the young lady to leave. The young lady refused. And after that, the two engaged in a verbal altercation, and from a verbal altercation, it soon turned into a physical altercation. After it turned into a physical altercation, Yaya pulled a knife and she stabbed Nba Youngboy's baby mama. I also forgot in my last podcast to inform you all that the young lady was pregnant. So, not only did Yaya allegedly stab someone, she stabbed a young lady that was pregnant. And I believe she was very far off. This is the same young lady that fought this young lady and in front of a hotel for this young man. This young lady is, I don't understand why she's doing what she's doing. What hurts me the most about this young lady is the fact that she has her whole life ahead of her. She is 19 years old. And going from experience, if I was 19 years old again, there is so much that I would change. And I just feel like she's throwing her whole life away for this young man that does not respect her. And he constantly shows this young lady that he does not respect her. He has cheated on Yaya Mayweather more times than ever. He has, I believe, a number of mothers of his children. It's a bad situation. The way he talks to her, the way he treats her, you can tell that there's not really much love between the two, but she's holding on to a love that is just not there. And I would hate for this young lady to spend up to maybe 99 years in prison over something that was trivial. Maybe maybe the mother of Nba Youngboy's child said something that she did not like, which is possibly why she said something. But from what I read on Twitter, this young lady, after they got into a physical altercation, the reason she stabbed this young lady was because she lost the fight. So her pride was hurt. She felt disrespected. And on top of that, she's feeling like she's losing, I guess, some credit toward her boyfriend to the mother of his child. So he already has a child with this young lady, but I guess they're expecting their second child. So he's disrespecting you already by cheating on you. And instead of you confronting this young man, you decide to stab this young lady. So, again, if she is found guilty, first off, let me say that this young lady already has a felony charge for assault of a deadly weapon. She already has a felony charge for assault of a deadly weapon. She also faces a $10,000 fine if convicted. Again, if this does not open your eyes to the fact that this young man does not love you and cherish you and want what is best in your life, I don't know. However, you have to keep in mind that this young lady is the daughter of Floyd Mayweather, meaning he has money. And as long as you have money, I feel like you might get punished, but I don't think you will get punished as severely as someone who does not have the dollar signs behind their name. I feel like at most she may get 5 years in prison, at most, if her father does not go in to pay her fine. However, at the same end, who's to say that Nba Youngboy might do the same thing? I think this young lady is just so in love with this man. She's looking at this man through her cupcake-faced, I'm in love, he loves me eyeglasses. And she's not looking at it through a life journey. And what I mean by that is she is the one who stabbed this young lady, not Nba Youngboy. So if she does face time in prison, which I'm more than likely sure she will, who's to say that he's going to be waiting there for her? Who's to say that he's not going to leave her while she's in prison for another young lady? She lost her freedom. He already does not respect her, so why would he wait for her? When people show you their true colors, that is their true colors. Do not steer from that. I mean, given, a lot of people make mistakes, but this young man has made the same mistake more than once of cheating on her, of lying on her, of disrespecting her, and she has not done anything. She has fought for this man. She has stabbed someone for this man, and in return, nothing. And I personally feel like while she is in jail, he is going to leave this young lady either for the woman she stabbed him for or for another young lady. Again, when people show you their true colors, take it as it is. I believe there's an old term, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Fool me 3 times. I don't know that part, but this young man has fooled her more than 3 times, and she just keeps showing her where she's messing up. And now her biggest mess up might be where she is messed up freedom-wise. Your freedom is priceless. You are priceless. So what are you doing? Over who? Over what? Your freedom is your freedom is priceless, which is why I have to get on this. He's a former NFL running back, and his name is Christopher Johnson, and he played for the Arizona Cardinals. And let me tell you, this man is so talented, okay? This man is talented. He has gained 9,651 yards on the ground and scored 55 touchdowns in his career. He added 2,255 receiving yards and 9 scores. Okay? Okay. He led the NFL with 2,006 rushing yards and was named the first team All-Pro. Talented, active in his community, doing everything he can to help those advance so that they're not in his same conditions. The same young man is being suspected in the Orlando incident where 2 people were shot, one in January and one in June. So here is where this goes out. This young man, his name is Christopher Johnson. Now, Johnson has not been charged, but he is suspected of paying a noted Florida gang member to kill 2 men whom he believed shot at him and his friend in 2015. In 2015, Johnson was a passenger in a Jeep traveling in Orlando, Florida, and he was shot in the right shoulder in a drive-by shooting, which left his friend dead. And so you can see where this anger is coming from. You know, this is his friend. This is possibly someone that has grown up with him. This man is in his circle of family. So at the time, it became very frustrating because at the time, police said that they believed the Jeep was targeted. However, now, in court documents, it says, quote, intelligence gathered suggested the shooting was a gang-related murder attempt on Christopher Johnson. So after the said men killed his friend, they're saying that in exchange for killing the suspected shooters, Johnson paid the alleged gang leader, Dominique Bolden, by giving him funds and an individual who could help him form a drug trafficking organization. Johnson, before I go into my opinion, Johnson has not formally been charged with a crime, like I stated before, and he is adamantly denying these altercations. So here's my opinion about this. Do I feel like he was hurt? Yes. I do feel like Christopher Johnson was hurt. I would be very hurt if my best friend that I have known since middle school has passed away. That's family. That's my family. This person has known me half of my life, especially if I become famous. They have been with me through thick and thin. They love me through all of my mess because I'm a ball of mess. And so to see someone you have grown up with, someone who you love and you care for, shot in the head, and the police don't want to do anything about it. They're just kind of saying, oh, it was a drive-by shooting. You're going to be fine. It's just kind of disheartening. And so a lot of people, I'm not saying that this is necessarily the true story for what happened to Christopher. I think he was just talking and someone just took it literal. Or maybe he wasn't talking at all and these are just people in his community that feel some type of way because he made it big and they're feeling like, oh, he made it big now. He doesn't care about nobody. So I'm going to go to the police, which, you know, gang members usually never do. Go to the police and say, oh yeah, he hired me so I can get my 15 minutes of fame and say, oh, he gave me cash money to do this. It just doesn't make sense. Why would this man work so hard and do everything he can to get out of his past situation, to be in a situation like this, or to end up worse like his friend. It just doesn't make sense to me. Was he angry? I do believe he was angry. Do I feel like he probably felt like the police didn't do anything? More than likely. Do I believe, however, that he went to this man named Dominique Bolden? Do I feel like he went to this man named Dominique Bolden and said, I want these man's heads on a platter? No, I don't. I personally really don't. And that's saying a lot, because I'm the same person saying that I feel like Yaya stabbed that young lady for respect and dominance. But in this case, I just do not feel like Christopher Johnson did this. I do not feel like he sent a man out to I don't feel like he put a hit on two men. I just don't. With that being said, after the break, we're going to change topics again. And this time, you already know where we're going. We're going straight into the music industry again. Because, again, it's like the music industry focuses more on drama and how people wear their clothes rather than their music. And we're going to talk about this individual when we come back after this break. Stay tuned.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith.
An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about Yaya Mayweather and how she is looking at 99 years in prison for stabbing a young lady that is connected to rapper Nba Youngboy. And we were also talking about Christopher Johnson and how he is being suspected of hiring someone to kill two men that were said to be in the shooting of him not only getting shot in his shoulder, but the passing of his friend. And how this is just such a bad look on two individuals. One, for a man who has worked so hard in his career to get to where he is at now, just for it to all come, not tumbling down, but falling down to a young lady who is only 19 years old and has her whole life ahead of her. And instead of embracing that and understanding that this young man is not the best person in her life, she's doing everything she can to keep this young man, who might end up costing her her freedom. In this segment, however, I wanted to talk about Billie Eilish and how she is facing not only people, slut-shaming her, but people claiming that she has made a sex tape. I know. It's all so crazy. So if you do not know who Billie Eilish is, she is an American singer and songwriter. She first gained her media attention in 2015 when she uploaded the song Ocean Eyes, and she uploaded that on SoundCloud. And let me tell you guys, I love that song. Oh my goodness, I love that song. There are, just like a lot of different artists, there are some songs that I do like and there's some songs that I do not like. However, how a person dresses is, I believe, how they express themselves. And throughout her career, what I like so much about Billie is the fact that she has always made it a mission to have everything focused on her music and on her talent. The thing I don't like about the music industry, aside from all of the drama that always stems from the music industry, it's about how a lot of women are overtly sexualized. And then as a person of color, it actually goes up from there. But for right now, we're just going to talk about the women and how they are overtly sexualized on everything. From, if they show a little bit of skin, if they wear makeup, how their hair looks, the size of their breast, their size of their butt, what shoe size they wear, if they wear nails, if they don't wear nails. It's an overtly sexualized industry. And what she wanted to do was she wanted to have it to where people have to focus on her voice. They have to focus on her music. They have to focus on this young lady's talent. So many times what you'll see Billie wearing is something that is oversized, or she'll wear something that is baggy, something that doesn't have any shape. And again, that focused you to look at her as a young lady. She is a very, very pretty young lady. Again, ocean eyes. Her eyes are blue like the ocean. This girl is beautiful, okay? So it should come to no surprise that the moment she decides to change just a little bit, people lose their minds. So last month, Billie didn't quite, do what people want her to do. It was hot outside, and she decided to wear a simple tank top. And from there, people lost their minds. It's hot outside. Why would you wear something baggy or oversized or something that is bringing heat to you when you could just wear a tank top? And so what people decided to do, people decided to go not only on her page, but on other different pages and slut shame her. They wanted to say, quote, Billie said, quote, "I saw comments like, how dare she talk about not wanting to be sexualized and wear this." I cannot deal with people. It's like if it's hot outside and she decided to wear baggy clothes or baggy pants or oversized anything, if she was wearing that and it's hot outside, then why is she wearing that? It's too hot to be wearing that. She needs to learn she could have a heat stroke, anything. But if she decides to wear a tank top, why are her boobs so big? Why is she wearing a tank top? I thought she didn't want to be overtly sexualized. That's a lot of skin I'm seeing. It's just like you can't win. And so I think she's doing something that a normal person would do, which is wearing clothes. She's wearing something that is covering her up, but it's also hot outside. So why would you want to have a heat stroke wearing something that's oversized and baggy and brings in heat when you can wear a tank top and be happy? And I'm saying all of this to also say that Billie decided one day, she also mentioned in a magazine article that I saw on Hollywood Unlocked, she actually said that she posted a picture with her and her friends on the beach. Keep that in mind. She was with her friends on the beach, okay? She was with her friends on the beach wearing a swimsuit. Okay? She's with her friends on the beach wearing a swimsuit, and people go in and they're slut-shaming her again. But this time they were calling her a whore. This young lady cannot win. Why would you wear baggy clothes on the beach? This young lady is 18 years old. I have not heard any kind of drama come from Billie. Any kind of drama. This is the sad part about this. I have heard nothing come from this young lady. Nothing. she has made it a mission to talk about her talent and her music. And this is exactly what this young lady was talking about when she first came out, as to why people, if she dressed differently, people would overtly sexualize this young lady because their minds are not used to seeing her in another type of light on anything except for baggy, big clothes. I also feel like people are kind of afraid of change too. So it's kind of a double standard for a lot of people as well. So it's okay if you wear a normal tank top, and it's okay if you wear a bikini or a swimsuit on the beach, because, you know, that's normal. But if this young lady does it, it's a huge issue. That didn't make sense to me, but this was something that really grinded my gears. This rumor, this terrible rumor that someone decided to spread, I can't even put in words on how angry I am. And I'm not even Billie. So I can only imagine how angry she is. There is a rumor that surfaced of her having a sex tape out. This young lady had on the same black and green wig and went on a train like a moving train, and did sexual activities with another person. And people were claiming that is in fact Billie, to where Billie was at first, you know, just letting the people say what they had to do. Her true fans understood and knew for a fact that it was not her. But the rumor mill was starting to get so big that it was not only affecting her as a person, but it was affecting her talent, her music, and her gigs. She said, quote, "You think I would be having sex on a train in daylight with a dress on and fishnets and an effing peace sign? Dog, come on. People put on a effing green and black wig and go out in public and pretend to be me. This is annoying. It makes me look bad. And it's going to make me look even worse if I act like a dick." End quote. I can see where she's coming from. As a woman, many times if we speak out or if we voice our opinions or our objections, we're perceived as the villain, especially if a fault is against us. This young lady has already been beaten down because of the allegations coming from random people, the slut-shaming. And now all of a sudden with the slut-shaming comes the sex tape. It's dampening this young lady's reputation, something that she has built so hard to make. And on top of that, the fact that people are running with this and doing everything they can to stop this young lady's talent, this young lady's music, it goes beyond that. They're tapping into this young lady's mental health. No one ever wants to talk about that. Slut-shaming can tap into a person's mental health, especially if this young lady's money is now decreasing because of it. And with that being said, I feel like I can talk about this for hours and for days, and we do not have the time for that. Goodness gracious, we don't have the time for that. And how angry I am with this topic, we are going to be here for a very long time. So I'm going to brighten up the mood. I'm going to talk about two brothers that will hopefully help you on your inspiration for the remainder of this week and next week. And best of all, it involves food. And that's coming up right after the break. Stay tuned.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Welcome back, guys. We have made it. We are on the last part of our segment today. We have had a whirlpool of events and situations and drama just going on social media today. From the Billie Ellish situation to the Yaya Mayweather situation and her possibly facing 99 years, to Christopher Johnson, former NFL player, being accused of hiring someone to kill 2 people, to Los Angeles deciding to extend their stay at home to May 15th, to fizzing and what that is and how it may affect your body if you attract the COVID-19. So stay at home. But again, if you are someone who is being abused, or someone who is being abused, whether it's mental, physical, or emotional, or something else that stems into domestic abuse, please call 1-800-799-7233. We want to see you safe. We want to see you after this pandemic. We want to see you in your best light. So please call 1-800-799-7233. So now, I told you guys that I wanted to tell you guys about some inspiration to keep you inspired and to keep you moving forward into your endeavors and making sure that you can gain everything. So here's the inspiration. 12 and 13-year-old brothers, Shane and Nigel Mushambi, are founders and CEOs of their own Texas-based bakery called Two Bros in the Kitchen. And they're also going to school and taking college courses. College courses. Did I mention that these guys are 12 and 13? More than that, they are giving back to their community, which is based in Missouri City, Texas. And if you don't know where that is, that's a little bit past Houston, okay? And what they're doing is they're giving back through donations for charities. Many of them are going to meals for the homeless. These guys are unstoppable, okay? At just 12 and 13. I just want to reiterate that. At 12 and 13, I think I was reading like fan fictions at home and just trying to study and make sure that I'm passing all of my classes so I don't have to hear my mom's mouth. And I think I was also playing Sims too. So 12 and 13, these young men are taking college courses and they have their own bakery. This is beyond me. And I also have to tip my hat to the parents as well to show them that it's okay to rise to the top, but treat people the way you want to be treated, with love and with respect. And you can definitely see that. I was once told the same people you see going up are the same people you see going down. So if you ever find yourself going down in a situation, there are a lot of people that will help you rise back up to the top. And I think that's possibly what the parents are showing this 12 and 13-year-old. And with that being said, this is the end of today's show. I would like to thank you for listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I would like to ask that you please remember to subscribe to the show and write a nice review, because that really helps us out. It also helps me out so I know what you guys do and do not like. Okay. Also, be sure to follow us on all of our social media handles, including Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thank you, and I want you guys to have a good night, a good day, and everything in between. This is Shamaria Jackson signing out. Bye, guys.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.